Hi there, Linda Goodall here with another quick hatch video. When you have digitizing software, you can easily modify a standard embroidery design into something unique. With very little effort and skill and just a bit of knowledge about your tools, you can delete colors, add objects, and turn that into an in-the-hoop ornament just like this. I'll go to a new design window and I'll choose Insert Design. I'm going to select this one. It's this little Christmas tree ornament that I digitized a few years ago, and it's from a set called Swirly Christmas Trees. And because I did them in different software, I don't have an EME file, so we're going to work with the PES version. And I'll click Open. And I get this warning dialog box. This is not a grade A or B embroidery file. Resizing this design more than 10% larger or smaller may produce poor quality embroidery. That's okay, I am not going to resize this design. If we look down here at the status bar, it says it's a grade D. And the grade D doesn't tell us anything about how it will embroider, it tells us what it's composed of. And in this case, grade D means it's stitches only design, and that's confirmed when we look over here in the sequence docker. This little zigzaggy thing means it's a stitchy bit. Now I prefer to open machine files as stitches only. That way I can see, do I think this is a good one to turn into objects? Do I need to turn it into objects? Because I can always do that once I open it. Now with this design, there are two reasons I want to keep it as stitches only. First is, I'm not going to do anything that will cause the stitches to regenerate, so I'm not going to resize it or do anything like that. Secondly, in addition to standard stitches like runs and satins, I've used motif runs. You can see that we have a chain stitch going on here. In fact, if I zoom in, you can see that I have this chain stitch. So Hatch will do nice things with the satins, but who knows what it might do with the chain stitch because it's not any identifiable stitch. Also, these little round things are candle wicking stitches. And yes, Hatch does have a candle wicking stitch, and Hatch will interpret this as probably a little satin blob. I'll zoom back out, press 0 on the keyboard. So the point is, you don't always need to convert every machine file to an object-based file when using designs from your stash. So I'm going to do File Save As, and I'll navigate to my Projects folder, and I'm just going to call this Small Tree 2, because I already have one, Template. Now this is not a regular Hatch template. This is just a regular design with the name template applied to it. I'm making it into a template because once I create the parts to turn it into an in-the-hoop design, those bits will work with any of the other 9 designs in the set that are this size. The set comes with 2 sizes, so we really only need to make 2 templates to work with every design in this set. Over here I want to delete the red and the gold, and it's quicker to do it this way. So I'll go to the Colors tab, select that one, and just press delete. And now I just have the tree. Let's zoom out a bit, press minus on the keyboard. Now I'll go to the Digitize toolbox, and I'm going to digitize a closed shape. And I want it to be an outline. And all I have to do is just make this triangle. We'll make a quick one here because we can always fix it up with Reshape. And I just want it to go around the perimeter of my tree there. And let's put a ruler down there to make sure it's straight. And now I'm going to use that shape and go to the Create Layouts toolbox and go to Create Outlines and Offsets. And I'm going to place some offsets. We'll set it at 2 millimeters, and let's do 5 of them. And I want rounded corners. We don't want to include holes, and I'll click OK. And now I can look at this and decide, okay, which one do I want to keep? And the one we want to keep is our seam line. So I'll delete that one, don't want that really outer one, probably that one. And I think this one might be good, so we'll delete that one. And I'm going to do one more around this one. So go back to Create Outlines and Offsets. This time I only want one, and I want it at 6 millimeters. And there we go. Now when you make an in the hoop project, you need to think about how you will be assembling it. For this project, I'm going to hoop my stabilizer, also a placement line, which will be this outer one, lay down my front fabric, then I'll sew this outline again to secure it in place, then I'll sew the tree part, and then I'll put my backing fabric face down on the top of my hoop, and I'll sew this seam line. So we have just a little bit more work to do. So I'm going to take the one that I'm going to use for my placement line, and I'm going to move it to the beginning of my design. I'll go to the applique toolbox and convert that to an applique. Now I don't really want to do an applique, but I want to use this to do my placement lines. So we'll go back to the Objects tab, I'll select my applique, and I'm going to change some settings here. First of all, we do not need a cover stitch, so I'll set that to none. And I'll use a single run for my placement. So that means that this first one, let's go back to the colors here, this first one will sew directly on my hoop stabilizer. Then my machine will stop, and I can place down a rectangle of my tree fabric, stitch that in place, then I'll sew my tree, and then I'll do the seam allowance. Let's go back. Now if we leave this right now, we won't be able to turn our tree right side out, so we have to do a little bit more work. So I'm going to start by putting some rulers at the 20 millimeter mark here. And then I'm going to go to the Edit Objects toolbox and get my knife. And I'm just going to slice this right here in the middle. Press H to activate the Reshape tool. And now I'm just going to move those back. In fact, I'm just going to move them back a little bit. Then I'm going to add a node right there on that line and flip that down like that. And flip this one down like this. Okay, so this is going to be my seam line, and this is going to be my turning space. So you need to make sure that you leave your turning space big enough that you can turn it right side out. If you have really big fingers, you might want to make yours a little bit bigger. Now, we're going to be sewing this with embroidery thread, and right now it's only going to do one pass around it. So what I like to do is make that a double pass so that it's a little bit more secure. And with it selected, I'll go to the Digitize toolbox and I'll choose Backtrack. This will give us a little bit more secure seam since we're using embroidery thread rather than construction thread. Now let's check it in the stitch player. So there's my placement line. We'll stop, place my fabric, and it gets tacked into place. And then the tree sews, and we can speed through that. We'll slow it down again. Love those chain stitches. And there it goes around and attaches my fabric. So we need to stop after the tree sews so that we can place our front fabric face down, and then it will complete. Then it's just a matter of popping it out of the hoop, trimming off just inside this line here, and trimming a little closer there. Turn it right side out, and you're ready to embellish your tree. I said earlier that there are two sizes in this set. So here's my template for my small one. Here's my template for the large one. And the cool thing is, I only have to do this for each size. Every other tree of this size in this set will fit right in there. So that works really nice. Now, if you have a large hoop, you can combine a bunch of them in one hooping. And in this case, I did my applique, my tack down and placement. Right, you can see it right there, and then again right there, as a large piece of fabric. I also placed another placement line before each tree just to secure those layers a bit more before I stitch this inner part. Then at the end, I'll run all of my seams after I place that last rectangle of fabric. So the next step is to sew them and make them into something like these. I've put a link in the description box below for the designs and for the blog post on how to stitch and finish these projects if you need a little bit more help. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe, and please do make a comment.